My psycho ex-girlfriend cheated on me and got pregnant. She insists I'm the father but refuses a DNA test. I had to get a restraining order on her. 15 years ago, I was 25 and was finishing my work contract, and my then GF of 3 years, Natalie, was acting increasingly strange. I came back from a 2-month assignment and was prepared to break up with Natalie. She came by and gave me the good news she was pregnant. I asked how far along she was. She said 5 weeks, so I broke it off with her and told her she needed to do better at math. She refused the breakup and insisted the baby was mine. So I told her the following: 1. Paternity test, and 2. If the child was mine, we can talk about financial support and custody arrangements with lawyers. She refused both and told everyone we both knew that I was a deadbeat for knocking her up and leaving her. I told everyone I was on a 2-month assignment when she conceived, but a few insisted for the sake of decency, I house her and give her limited support. I consulted a lawyer about this mess, and the lawyer made it very, very clear that any overt support I give could be seen as me taking responsibility. So I told these friends that, and most dropped it, except one guy, who again insisted that charity couldn't be used as a legal cudgel like that. I told him if he believes that he can house her. He agreed to drop it after that. Child was born and not even going to do the whole "she didn't look like me" because most babies are born with squished faces, and all I saw were the pics she sent me with messages like, "Emma wants to know where daddy is" and shit. She still refused to take any paternity tests. But her constantly showing up with that baby got to the point where I filed an RO. Fun fact, in my state, a permanent RO is not, in fact, permanent. It is 2 fudging years long. The only way to get it longer is if there was a violent crime associated. And apparently bugging someone with a baby that's not theirs is not a violent crime. So my life for the last 14 years was me renewing the RO every 2 years because, once it clears, Natalie shows up again with my not child. I did eventually find a nice girl, get married, and now I have 9-year-old son, Henry. My wife Kim is well aware of Natalie and Emma. When the cycle begins again, I always say the same thing. 1. Paternity test. 2. Once paternity is proven, I will take custody and get financial support set up. Natalie always refuses and says both are insulting. Recently, the cycle started again, and this time Emma showed up first. She approached my son during a school event, visit to the zoo, and said, "Hi, I'm your big sister Emma." Henry knows about stranger danger and ran away to a teacher. I had to have a very, very painful talk to the teachers and parents that were at the event about my relationship with Emma and Natalie and how Emma was never my daughter. I even called her my daughter once or twice in the conversation. After the group disbanded, one of the mothers confronted me and said that while Natalie was in the wrong telling this poor child I was her father, calling her my daughter was mocking this situation. I kind of get where she's coming from, just I can't help this child. And the honest truth is playing light of the 2-year cycles is the closest I can get to finding peace in the situation. Additional information from OP on his same responses to multiple questions about custody and DNA tests. Edit. To answer the repeated question, in my state, the mother has to start the petition for the father to be established and the test to start. There is no instance where a father can start the petition. There was a chance to do this when Emma was born, but the window was exactly 1 month, and I was much too focused on the RO, not thinking the paternity angle would bite me in the butt. One last time, to everyone saying, just ask for custody. That'll force DNA test. Literally can't be done. Been through this enough with a lawyer and have consulted with other lawyers. There are laws protecting children, and a lot of them exist for good reason. I'll explain it the way my lawyer explained it. Imagine there's a woman that ran from an abusive ex. She finds out after she escaped she's pregnant. She gives birth, never puts the ex on the birth certificate, never tries to file for support because she wants to get as far away from him as possible. He finds out years later and tries to rope her back in using the child as leverage. She can just say no, and the state has to let it go. There is, however, a provision if the father was involved enough to know when the birth was, that he could submit his DNA to the state within 31 days of birth as his potential father, but that time has long passed. The law is designed this way on purpose. In the eyes of the family court, I am a random person, and I was never claimed to Emma. If you think the state wants all children to be claimed by fathers and will gladly submit any DNA test whenever any potential father shows up, find a random single mom, call the family court and say you want to claim her child. I am tired of everyone acting like all I needed to do was fill out one sheet of paper and this nightmare would end. Please, just call a lawyer for a free consultation or post on legal advice and ask them. It doesn't work that way. Relevant comments. Commenter. Seems like it would be possible to get a soda can or napkin the child used to do a DNA test. I'm sorry for the child, though. One crazy manipulative parent. OP, this isn't TV. You can't DNA test a child without that custodial parent's consent. Commenter, that's not entirely true. You can, it just won't be admissible in court. We all know you're not the dad, or she would have done this herself to get your money, if nothing else. OP, if it is done, I want to it be admissible in court. I wouldn't want to give Natalie a chance to weasel out if it by claiming we faked it. Commenter, NTA, I can understand why someone would think that this is callous, but it's your business and you've every right to use humor to try to deal with it. Don't say that to Emma. Considering that she believes your mom, that would be pretty rude. Now, the burning question. How did she find Henry while he was on a field trip? OP, we suspect Natalie befriended a mom at the school and got a class schedule, then dropped Emma off at the zoo to be with her brother. Since we are unrelated, I have no idea what school Emma goes to, or who Natalie's friends are. We are being very reactive to the situation, but because there are children involved, my lawyer said that that's the best we can do, and any type of investigation into Natalie beyond where to send legal paperwork could make it seem like mutual contact and hurt any future ROs. Commenter, you could get a court-ordered DNA test. Her claims are slanderous. You could take her to court to prove paternity. OP, Natalie has long since stopped calling me out for being a deadbeat online. She prefers to show up in person asking if I want to meet our daughter. The last time the cops confronted her about this, she claims that she only wanted me to act as a paternal father figure to her child. It really depends on the cops that show up. Commenter, NTH, at some point it becomes draining and the little girl is going to need some serious therapy after everything is said and done. Why don't you go to the courthouse and make her do one so it can come to an end? OP, because Natalie does not consent to it. And she said she's not seeking any sort of court-ordered support, so the court just shrugs and says, get a protective order. OP was asked if it's possible that RO can be applied to his son since Emma stalked him at the zoo. OP, a usual RO applies to immediate family and can be modified for immediate family for both parties, which is what we are seeking now. OP was asked about his state laws on the process of establishing paternity. OP, in my state, the laws are very clear about the process of establishing paternity. A mother can name a father and then petition the father to submit DNA for testing. A father cannot do the same to a mother except in a very, very specific situation, which is in a window of 1 month after the child is born. Anytime after that, a mother can simply deny having her child tested, which Natalie has done repeatedly. Update 1. Got off the phone with my attorney. We have a preliminary hearing on the new RO this week. We will most likely be issued a temporary RO, and then after that another hearing for the permanent RO. CPS is investigating Natalie and Emma's living situation. The teacher's report held a lot of weight, and my lawyer thinks that this might actually be a way to end the madness now. In family court, for minors there exists something that's like a temporary, court-appointed guardian. I think the term is guardian ad litem, who is only a guardian for legal purposes and procedures and decisions of such, including for medical. If the family court appoints such for Emma, we can ask this temporary guardian for the DNA test, get this put to ground. The madness might actually have an ending in sight. Adding here, I feel like I need to explain the relationship I had with Natalie all those years ago. When I got back from my 2-month assignment, I was already dead set on breaking up with her. Her, oh wait, I'm pregnant, was never going to make me marry her. In fact, I doubted she was pregnant for several weeks. The last year of our relationship, several red flags appeared in her behavior, ranging from demanding I check in with her while at work, only hang out with friends with her present, extreme bouts of jealousy if I ever seem too friendly with women, including waitresses. I was in a line of work that demanded me being away for long stints, which she hated, but also kept me out of her reach for long periods of time. I think it was halfway through that last year I realized that when I was away, I did not miss her. In fact, I was relieved to plop into a cot and fall asleep after long hours of work without thinking about her. When the pregnancy turned out to be real, I made it clear that with a paternity test, I would pay support, split custody, and be a co-parent and nothing more. She wanted me to be her husband, no question asked, no test, just pure blind faith and devotion to her and the child. The test, she insisted, was insulting. There was never going to be a relationship, and there was no relationship to salvage with Natalie. On the advice of the first attorney I hired, the deal was no test, no contact. Additional information from OP on his work assignments, and how that played a role in the whole paternity and his relationship with his ex. OP. The nature of my job back then meant I was on assignment for weeks at a time, sometimes as long as 2 months. The amount of time I was home for the half year was small, and not all of it consecutive. Also, in relationships there's moments when you realize you aren't happy, you don't miss the other person, but it's still a bit of a fog you're working yourself through. Half-started conversation about where we see ourselves, and seeing if there was anything left that are dropped, etc. I'd like to believe I wasn't codependent then, but lack of sleep and lack of stretches of contact made it to where longing for normalcy meant longing for even the bad. Familiarity is a fucking killer. That last trip was one where during it I steeled myself that when I got home I was going to break up. Also, we were never going to be in a relationship afterwards. In the past 14 years, all of the friends we had as mutual have worked their way out of my contact list. I don't see her parents, she doesn't see mine. We have no social circles in common anymore. What does she have to lose to claiming me as the father and me taking the test? Public stigma? I wouldn't be talking to her friends. She can tell them whatever the fuck she wants. She could brag about how I caved. I wouldn't know, and I most likely wouldn't dispute it if I was the father. No, it sounds like you interpreted a very, very entertaining theory. Update 2. The preliminary hearing on the new RO went well. Emma and Natalie were there, and we discovered that Emma is currently living with her great-grandmother and has a guardian ad litem, court-appointed guardian on legal matters. My lawyer thinks this means whatever was found in Natalie's home situation warranted removing Emma, and potentially severe enough that the great-grandmother only has physical custody and the need to appoint a guardian ad litem. During the hearing, we went through the whole song and dance, the past ROs, the whole deal. My lawyer turned to Emma's representative and said we were willing to submit to a DNA test and put this to bed. Natalie looked like she was having a conniption at that, and her own lawyer urged her to shush. Emma's representative accepted, and we were cheek swabbed in the courthouse. A temporary order is now in place while a second hearing is scheduled in the upcoming weeks for the permanent 2-year order. The order covers immediate family on both sides, and as I've detailed in the past, Natalie is actually good with following court orders, oddly. We have about 4 weeks before we have the definitive test results back, but I'm not too worried either way. P.S. There was some people who thought the court couldn't use Charity as a cudgel was the father. Well, that's Jim. Haven't talked to Jim in 10 years, but Jim is gay and hated Natalie. He just also happened to be a give the shirt off his back kind of dude, and as long as I knew him volunteered at a food pantry. His protests came mostly from naivety, not self-interest. Update 3. We got the results in late last week, as did Emma's party. I am not the father. Natalie had a major blow-up when she heard the news from her grandmother Sylvia. Emma's currently living at Sylvia's and is out of Natalie's custody. This blow-up included a major tantrum on my front lawn, which also violated the temporary RO. Natalie has been arrested and Sylvia hasn't bailed her out. Sylvia has communicated to my lawyer that she wanted to give her apologies for bankrolling Natalie's life the past 15 years. I only met Sylvia a few times when I was dating Natalie, and I know Natalie grew up with her and Sylvia had money, but was never really told the extent of that. Sylvia has communicated, via my lawyer, which is technically allowed with the RO in place, that both she and Emma want to send me an apology via a letter. I told my lawyer they were free to write whatever letters they wanted, as long as this was the last communication we had with them. The permanent RO is certainly going to be granted now, with the emergency one violated. We still don't know what caused Emma to be removed from Natalie's care, or if Natalie has any underlying issues. If we do get the letters, I will post them. Relevant comments. Commenter. Hopefully this will end the harassment, and even though you knew she wasn't your daughter, now you have the proof. Commenter. I feel for Emma. I mean, look at her maternal influence. But I am glad that you finally have answers and can hopefully keep Natalie away from you and your family permanently from now on. Got the letters. July 21st, 2024. I got them Friday, after my lawyer read them and deemed them okay. Sylvia's letter was detailing Natalie had a rough family life. Stuff I already knew about Natalie's father running out, then her mother, leaving Sylvia to raise her. A lot of, I did my best with what I had. Sylvia detailed that her and Emma will be okay. She does still have some money. Not fudge you money, but enough that Emma will have enough to get a very decent jumpstart in life when she turns 18. Sylvia housed Natalie and Emma in a house she owned in the city, while Sylvia lived about an hour north, out in the country. She sent Natalie money monthly for expenses and saw them about 4 times a year: birthday, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas. As to Emma's living situation, The only thing Sylvia said was the photos she saw of the city house broke her heart. Needless to say, Sylvia pledged to not enable Natalie anymore. Emma's letter was a lot sadder. It started with, "Father who is not my father," which I found weird. She detailed how Natalie told her that if she behaved, I would accept her. My acceptance of her hinged entirely on Emma doing as told. Emma said Sylvia has her in therapy, and that Natalie told them both that I was dodging the test using legal loopholes. She said seeing me suggest the test in person made her feel like Natalie was right. I was able to accept her. She felt happy and hopeful. When the results came in, she said that was worse than not knowing at all. She apologized for scaring my son, brother who is not my brother, as she said in the letter. There is a weird tone to her letter, and I feel like she is coming to terms with things. The letter did hurt to read, but both of them pledged to not interact with any of us anymore. Natalie is still in jail. Maybe it's finally over. Commenter. This is heartbreaking for Emma. This poor girl has been lied to and led to believe her behavior was why you didn't accept her. Her mother obviously had her extremely convinced there was no other option. It seems clear she only wanted connection with her father, and now she's found herself without one and no knowledge of whom he may be. Never mind the fact her mother has lied to her for her entire life. Thankfully, it sounds like she is with someone who will do what they can to make sure she heals from this as much as could be possible. Hopefully, therapy is effective for her. She sounds to have a sense of humor about it, though. The father that is not my father and brother that is not my brother is a bit funny. That's a coping mechanism. I hope she does well, and glad to hear you should at least be done with worrying about Emma contacting you again. Hopefully. Natalie will probably still be a problem, but hopefully the next 2 years will give her time to think about her actions and maybe be more concerned about her daughter than dragging you into her drama. Update 4. Just when I thought things might finally settle down, life decided to throw another curveball. Got a call from Sylvia today out of the blue. She wanted to apologize again and update me on Emma's progress. I almost didn't take the call, but my curiosity got the better of me. Emma's therapy is going well, and she's starting to accept that I'm not her father, though it's a slow process. But here's the kicker. Sylvia dropped the bomb that Natalie might be facing more than just a temporary stint in jail. Apparently, there's a deeper investigation into her actions, including potential fraud related to the support money Sylvia sent her. I thanked Sylvia for the update and hung up, feeling a mix of relief and frustration. My wife Kim was incredibly supportive, reminding me that Natalie's mess is no longer our burden. We're focusing on protecting Henry and maintaining our sanity. Then, just when I thought the drama was over for the day, I got another surprise. A package arrived at our doorstep, no return address, just a plain brown box. Inside, I found a stack of old letters and photos from Natalie. Some were from when we were dating, others were more recent, showing Emma at various stages of her life. The last item in the box was a note from Natalie herself, written in messy, hurried handwriting. Dear, my name. I know I've made your life hell, and I don't expect forgiveness. But Emma deserves to know her real father. His name is Michael. Last I heard, he moved to Florida. Do what you want with this information. I'm done fighting. That's where it ended. No address, no contact details, just Michael in Florida. It felt like a half-hearted attempt at closure, or maybe a desperate last grasp at stirring the pot. I don't know what to do next. Part of me wants to track down this Michael guy and ensure Emma finds some closure, but another part of me feels it's not my battle to fight. I mean, how deep into this rabbit hole do I really want to go? For now, I'm letting it sit. Kim and I agreed to keep this information private until we decide the best course of action. My priority is my family and ensuring Natalie stays out of our lives for good. Relevant comments. Commenter. That's a lot to unpack. I feel for Emma, but you're right to prioritize your family. Maybe you can pass the info to Sylvia and let her handle it? OP, that's a good idea. I'll talk to my lawyer about it first, though. I don't want to do anything that could backfire. Commenter. At least Natalie finally gave you the truth. She must be desperate. Hopefully, Emma gets the answers she needs. OP. Yeah, it's a twisted kind of relief, but I'm not holding my breath for things to magically get better. Commenter. You've handled this with a lot of grace. It's unfortunate, but you're doing what's best for your family. Emma's lucky to have Sylvia and therapy to help her through. OP. Thanks. It's been a wild ride, but I just want it to end. Here's hoping this is the final chapter.